March the 4th, 2025. 20 minutes to 3 o'clock.
Hello, you have reached the office of the Police Complaint Commissioner. Please hold for the next available representative. Thank you for your continued patience while we try to connect you with the next available representative. Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, how can I help you?
Hi there, my name is Victoria Nevens, and I believe that there's a file open for me already pertaining to something that happened last year with Saanich Police.
If you just wouldn't mind spelling your last name there.
It's Nevens.
Okay, just give me one moment.
Have we spoken on the phone before?
I don't think it was me, but it may have been my colleague Genevieve, who is also in intake.
Lovely.
You may have spoken to her. Let me just double check here. Okay, yes. So I'm just seeing this complaint in relation to Saanich. So I'm also seeing that there is an analyst assigned to that complaint, Lauren. So if there may be any other questions or things that you wanted to discuss with her, I'm able to see if she may be available for a phone call and transfer you through there.
That would be helpful because I'm basically in a shutdown mode because of the level of violence that I've experienced at the hands of those public servants. And so this phone call for me, it's taken me literally months to even call you today. Because I'm terrified all the time. They had the SWAT team out twice last year for me for no reason.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for calling in and acknowledging that as well. I understand that must be a difficult situation, from what you told me, and I don't know all the information, but let me see. I'll just place you on a brief hold and see if I can transfer you straight through to her.
Appreciate you. Thank you. for those who may not understand what happens when someone's been traumatized to this level, you go into a freeze response, which is a shutdown. It's complete avoidance or a procrastination. Because the truth is, after years of experience, there has been no help but only further harm caused. Having to get another third party involved in a matter between myself, my family, and those who have caused us intentional harm. Nothing left. Everything stolen. How do you explain that? No accountability? No responsibility? Is this Canada? This is British Columbia? How can that be? I'm afraid all of the time, any little noise.
Hi there, thank you for your patience and thank you for holding. I'm just seeing that she is in another call at the moment. I was hoping to see if she would become available, but it just looks like she's busy at this time. Is there a time that would be best for her to call you back?
You know what, that's so lovely, because phone calls for me are also terrifying because I don't know who's on the other end of the call and I'm not sure what their intention could be, and so...
Right.
I'm so overly traumatized.
Yeah, of course, and that makes sense, and I definitely want to, acknowledge that as well. Is it easier for you if there's some communication over email as well? Like, she may be able to set up a time through email, or you could try calling back as well this afternoon, and I can see if she may be available at that time as well.
Is it, do you make appointments for phone calls? Is that helpful for you on your end, or is that, you know what, I can imagine that you guys must be absolutely inundated with complaints, because I watch pretty closely about what happens here in this province, and these persons are out of control. They're out of control.
Yeah.
SWAT team twice last year for an innocent woman. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it is helpful if there's a time, or if there's maybe a time that I can pass on to her to reach out, but you're absolutely welcome to call back, and I can do the same thing and check, or what I would do after the call is email her, letting her know that you've called, and she's that you're seeking to have a telephone conversation with her.
Do you also pass forward things that you and I talk about? And I don't want to keep you long because I realize that you're fielding calls right now. People are trying to call in and get to somebody who's been assigned as an investigator. But I do send emails once in a while, and I had footage from the first SWAT team attack, and then there was also footage taken from the second SWAT team attack that is being held where I'm staying by some persons who are very concerned about the level of violence that I'm experiencing. And so we actually have, there's actually proof of what I'm trying to explain, which I couldn't explain unless you see what's gone on. You're not going to believe what I'm telling you, because it's out of control. The SWAT team has come.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's something that, I could definitely pass on to her. And, if there's anything further than that, best to speak with her directly, just because she is the one who is looking at the file with a bit more detail, and is considering things like that and that information. But, something brief I can pass along to her. But again, yeah, best just to get in touch with her directly. If there's any questions that you have about that, or that relate to the process or admissibility.
So she has a different number that she calls back on? It wouldn't be the 356-7458 number that would come up on somebody's telephone when an investigator from this service...
I believe it would show up as that. I can't say for sure, but I believe it would either show up as that, or as it may be a no-caller ID.
Right.
Typically, I believe it shows up as that that number that you just repeated, that was our general office number that she would be phoning from. But again, if you have time available as well, in half an hour, I can try that as well and let her know and see if she can be available for that time.
And you
I don't know her full schedule, but we're open from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. So anytime in between that. I am aware that also for the next 2 days we are in some training that the whole office is doing for those next 2 days. So she may have limited availability throughout that time as well. So if there may be a time and day that works best for you, Friday or otherwise, I can let her know, relay that to her, and see if she can contact you at that time.
So
or you're welcome to call back and try any time.
Yes, I've
if that's more comfortable.
Somehow managed to come out enough of my little shell today to call. Cause
I'm so glad, yeah.
Calls are terrifying for me. I mean, you can imagine, right? Being attacked by the SWAT team twice in a couple of months, like for no reason other than they want to retaliate because you said something. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
It is. I'm still, like, and the body remembers the trauma, so if those aren't, like, if people aren't trained in trauma response and the freeze response and what can happen when someone's been attacked for this long, you end up sounding crazy to people, which is another reason why I'm terrified to call, because that's the last thing I want to sound like, is that I'm having a hard time just doing basic functions now because of the violence. It's terrifying to call. So I managed today to have enough energy to call, and you're lovely, just like the other lady that I spoke to who took the call last year when I called, and I said to her, if I say something, is there going to be retaliation? And she said to me, well, no, I haven't seen that before, and yet that's exactly what happened. They retaliated because I said something to you, so this is terrifying for me as well to reach out again, because this could escalate the violence for me if I move the matter forward. But I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know who else to call at this point.
Yeah, well, I definitely think you're in the right place. And that's, important information to us to know as well, that I can relate to her. But yeah, best to speak with the analyst directly, especially if there are concerns about that. What I can do is, send her an email letting her know that you've called the office. If you're most comfortable just calling back at some time, that works too. It totally just depends. Whatever works best for you. Just trying to keep options open.
So it would be okay to maybe call at 3:30, do you think? 3:30 this afternoon?
Yeah, absolutely. I will, send her an email and try and get you guys connected. Unless she's busy, I don't see why I can put you straight through the phone.
Thank you so much for helping me. I appreciate your kindness and your calmness, and you didn't make me feel like I'm crazy, which basically I feel like I'm crazy all of the time, because who else going to believe this? Who would believe something like this could happen to somebody in Canada?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Hopefully, that continues through communication with our office. Yeah, if you want to try calling back in a bit, I will see if I can put you straight through to her.
And it's Laura that I'm asking for? Like, am I supposed to be asking for somebody specifically?
Yeah, you can. It's Lauren.
Lauren. Okay, Lauren. Sorry. Okay, I didn't know.
With your file number, or like you gave me your name, that's great. So I can look that up and see who it is, and then we're able to transfer you through that way.
Okay, fantastic. And you'll be on the phone when I call this later on?
Yes. Yeah, you bet.
Okay, great.
That's correct.
Thank you so much. I'll be calling back later on today.
Yeah, no problem. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. So, let's go over here and take a look at what's been happening. So, this is what happens when you're this traumatized and you're an introvert. Like, calls are terrifying. This is why I started to record calls years ago and post them online. Not only to prove that the calls usually go nowhere, and I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with the Police Complaints Commission public servants, but there is years of proof that when you do call and reach out for help, that there isn't help, there's just more harm being caused. So it's taken months for me to make that call because I'm terrified. Any little noise, I'm nauseous. Well, because they kept coming here and attacking and assaulting and criminally harassing and committing common nuisance, disturbing the peace of the public in an act of retaliation, in an act of discrimination and hate. And so this is actually not a joke. This is happening everywhere now, that properties are being stolen from true owners. There was somebody else recently who said something. They're stealing my property. This is in the UK. Here is John Stossel. He is saying politicians are stealing homes. Well, that's exactly what happened to my spouse and I. And David Eby, who was masked up as the BC Attorney General when this atrocity was taking place, knew full well it was taking place and chose to remain silent, which is aiding and abetting. So its BARF member buddies there could embezzle, $700,000 and then leave the woman that they hate for dead. Because that is Canada today. That is the British Columbian way today. No one cares that this is happening. So here's somebody else that was saying, hold on here. You've got bindings, you've got the Constitution of Canada, you've got international law. Like you just ignore everything. And you just do what you want because there's no accountability. So this is really important. So as an INFJ empath, highly sensitive, for whatever reason, engaging with the wicked. So obviously scripture is the DSM. Obviously this is how our people, the peculiar people, figure out who and what we are dealing with. And this is the way they're described, this kind, poisonous plants, humans with rotten roots producing filthy fruit. It induces severe traumatic injuries, including chronic fatigue, withdrawal, and shutdown. I mean, there's no coincidence that psalm, the first psalm, starts out as you can't have anything to do with them, you can't be anywhere near them, you will be physically harmed. And it's irreparable harm. Like, you can't fix this. You can't fix it with money. And of course, our people aren't going to a secular therapist. Depression in the nervous system, dorsal vagal shutdown response. Well, that's what happens. So every interaction with persons who are paid to protect life and property ends up in a traumatic injury. So physical responses of a traumatic injury, you're frozen. I go into freeze because I'm in physical shock. So I do have increased heart rate. I do have headaches all the time. I do have chest pain frequently. I am experiencing extremely frightening dizzy spells. I am chronically fatigued and I'm in a state of exhaustion. I'm literally immobilized. And we're the only ones advocating for ourselves.
Emotional responses: feeling isolated and disconnected, socially withdrawn. Anxiety, well, shock. It's shell shock. This is war. Daily life is challenging. Difficulty returning to work. Well, all of this fighting, all of this warring against the wicked, that's work. It's the hardest job in the world, to be up against the wall of wickedness. And the wicked wax worse and worse, and they don't get better. They don't change. They get worse and worse and worse. Trauma responses, right? And so I have been experiencing this since I arrived in the summer of 73. And so this was their solution. This was their solution when I was a baby. I'm a baby here. I'm under 5. I'm not going to cry. I am just now beginning to process and unpack what they did to me and why they were doing it and what part of my body that they were constantly messing with. They're trying to convince me that there's something wrong with me, that there's something wrong with the way my body is made. And that's not the truth at all. That's not the truth at all. I was sliced and diced, and poisoned. Terrorized and traumatized repeatedly. And it was my environment that was sick. But they're treating me like I'm sick. I was in the Vancouver Children's Hospital for about 12 days. In a room filled with other sick kids. And I don't remember the parents coming by too often. They lied and said we were going to the zoo. Oh, we went, yeah, we did go to the zoo. That's exactly where we went, and you fucking dropped me off. Oh, what happened? So I'm not a lazy woman, but I'm completely overwhelmed. The fucking SWAT team was out twice last year. They completely fucking demolished my property. Jack and I had 2 house cars. Both of them are stolen, and one of them's completely useless now. And do you think those savages acting as addicted to Saanich are going to apologize or say that they're sorry or ask if they can do anything for me? No. Why would they do that? They're going to hold the line. They're going to hold the line of wickedness because that's what the wicked do. So I was looking at something the other day. Listening, right? So what you have to realize in Canada is all of these so-called courts are all administrative courts. They're illegitimate courts. Like, there's no way a child should be forced into adoption by an administrative court. By a bencher who's fucking brainless. The same thing with these fraudulent foreclosures. You've got a fucking liar sitting there on the bench, fucking agreeing with the fucking liar who's petitioned a private for-profit fucking business that's supposed to be a public service. These law courts are all privately owned and operated. They're there for one thing and one thing only, and that's for profit. They don't care about procedure. They don't care about the legal rules. They don't care about fuck all. If they want it and you got it, it's just some fucking paperwork. We've gone through the paperwork. I went through it with you, the paperwork. All of it filled with nothing but fucking lies. Now you've got an epidemic of properties being stolen here in Canada. The banker and their slimy fucking snake solicitor can't prove that they loaned you any money. Go take a look at your mortgage. Did the banker sign? No, they don't, because they're not loaning you anything. So administrative law judges are unconstitutional. So what have they oathed to then? Oh, they've oathed to the barf? So then you can't act as a public servant, right? Because now you've got a conflict of interest happening. And so then you have no standing, you have no authority. You can't go and fucking tell other people, your neighbors, what to do and how to do it. Because now you're causing irreparable harm. But look at you, you just don't care, do you? Like all these politicians here in Canada, they're all guilty of vagrancy. They're all vagrants. Go take a look at vagrancy. They repealed vagrancy recently because the vagrants are all guilty of vagrancy. You go hire one of these BARF members, you're now aiding and abetting impersonation. They're now impersonating you. They're going to represent you, a living man or woman, as dead. Because you know when you go into a whorehouse, you are to be seen and never heard. That's why you need to appear. Oh, did you fail to appear? Well, they're going to issue a war rant for you, a war rant. I think carefully about all the words that they're using. An undertaking, like it's all got to do with the dead. Everything they're up to has got to do with the dead. So the dead are now trying to govern the living. This is why Jesus had such a problem when he was here, because he knew full well he wasn't one of the dead. And he never bowed to the beast. That's why the man lost his life.